Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to yet another edition of the Monsters Den. You got a double shot here on Thursday night. And in the co-captain's chair, we've got Mr. Chris Allo and Mr. Jamie Laszlo. Good evening, gentlemen. How are you? We're going to talk about horror comedies today.
Good to see you guys.
Yes,
So
we are.
that's been asked for many times by a lot of people. We've been talking about it for a while, and it's funny how we've talked like behind the scenes quite a bit that generally horror comedies can be kind of cool, but they're not some of our favorite type of genre films. But yet then you go through your collection and you start looking and you find out how many really could be classified as horror films with a comedic element to it, and how many we actually really like that are considered classics. So right, I mean, it's a lot of them.
I have a few here that are in my top 30 favorite movies of all time. A handful.
Yeah. Chris, would you say the same? I mean,
yeah, I definitely would. But I would say at the same time, I was also very stringent, I guess, because there's certain movies. I think there's a difference between a horror comedy and a horror movie that's funny, if that makes any sense. And there's a lot of movies that, to me, are funny, but they're not comedies. So
in other words, unintentionally funny.
Yes.
No, just
funny characters.
It's more of a horror movie than a comedy. So
the
to
director,
me, like I don't want to blow anybody's choices, but like to me, Reanimator is funny. There's a lot of great comedy in it, but to me, it's not a horror comedy. To me, that's just a horror movie that's funny.
Yes.
So that's how I was kind of separating and to some people it's nitpicking, but to me that's kind of how I was separating the and listen, the criteria is, it's all in here.
I know, right? Because there's a lot of them that draw the fine line, right?
It's all in my head.
I look at it like this. I look at it like this. The director has to be in on the joke too, and part of the bits. When it feels like it's separate from the director, it's funny but a horror. I don't know.
Right? Yeah, it's a tough one, but I mean, I did have one or two that were unintentionally funny. So yeah, it's just that's just in my head. Like I said, certain ones I think are horror comedies, and certain ones I just think are funny horror movies.
So all right, so since you mentioned it, so let's talk about Reanimator, because I actually pulled that one out, and I agree with you. It is a horror film,
right?
But it's fucking hilarious. Like the entire movie.
There's some great comedy in it. Some unbelievable stuff.
But you have to wonder: is that due to just the film and the story itself, or is it due to Jeffrey Combs and the other dude? I mean, is it just?
Yeah.
Do you think?
And there's some people that would probably watch that and like your mother and say, "I don't see the comedy in this whatsoever."
Excellent point, Jamie. The missus tells that to me all the time.
Right.
Not everybody's got a same sick sense of humor like you do. Like for a friend of mine, I got her for Christmas, I got her a calendar called Pooping Pooches, and it's just 12 monthly pictures of dogs taking a crap. And she didn't like it, but I thought it was hysterical. And look, it's Pooping Pooches. You can look it up on Amazon. But I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
So totally, yeah.
You should see the Christmas cards I wanted to get that I wasn't allowed to get. Because
there you go.
Yeah.
So you're saying, in other words, so let's expand on that. So in other words, so what you're saying is that Reanimator, the story itself, I think we can all agree, is a horror film. But there's the comedic elements here, probably only us who appreciate horror films will find funny.
I would allow
someone who does not.
This one,
so in other words, if they were to release this as a comedy, someone who's not a horror fan probably wouldn't find half this shit funny.
Maybe, but I do agree with Jamie that certain people won't find that funny. Certain people will just focus in on the completely horrific nature of it, and just the over the top gore will disgust them. So they won't be able to find any humor in the doctor's head being lopped off,
or a half a dog barking.
yeah, any of that kind of stuff. I mean,
so that's another good point. So in other words, the gore and the horror elements are so over the top and just ridiculous that they become kind of funny.
The darker the
at
comedy,
times, absolutely.
the harder it is to pull the comedy out of it. You know, the darker.
So as opposed to, all right, so I think we kind of have a good middle ground here with Reanimator. So this
right in the middle,
less of a horror comedy as opposed to, and if one of you guys have it, Shaun of the Dead, which was marketed as a comedy, right?
Now your mom, Pete, would watch Shaun of the Dead and go, okay, I see it's supposed to be funny at least.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I was gonna say I had Shaun of the Dead on my list. It's, to me, that's it right there, Pete. That's a horror comedy. It's still a horror movie, but it's absolutely a comedy at the same time. Whereas Reanimator is or listen, instead of apples to oranges, let's do apples and apples. Shaun of the Dead versus the original Dawn of the Dead. Dawn of the Dead has some great funny parts in it, but it's not a comedy by any means.
No.
Whereas Shaun of the Dead is a horror comedy with some, great gore, but also some hysterically funny performances and gags. Yeah. I mean, just like the jumping over the fences early in the movie,
So that's, that almost brings to mind then too, you hear the term thrown out a lot, black comedy. Because black comedy, again, is a story that's not really meant to be funny, but kind of is, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
and I think
that's
a lot
a
of
good
these
point.
films might fall into that. I think Reanimator too, because I mean, let's be frank. When Reanimator first came out all those years ago, and Chris, I'm sure you probably remember, that was marketed as a serious horror film.
Oh, absolutely.
There was no, it's funny too. No, I think after you went to see it, you were like, oh my God, that was great. It was so gory. It was kind of over the top, kind of funny in spots, right? But yeah.
Just
you laughed. It wasn't belly laughs. It was like, oh, I can't believe this.
They did that. Right. Yeah, exactly. So, all right, Jamie, you want to throw another one out?
Let me get rid of this one real quick.
Okay.
Since we did a whole show on Evil Dead.
And that's exactly what I was just going to mention. When you
our moms would watch Evil Dead 2 and go, okay, this is supposed to be funny. The deer is laughing on the wall, and the Three Stooges especially Army of Darkness. I mean, these movies, I know it turns off a lot of fans of the first movie, but this is actually the first movie I ever bought in 1989. I bought it used. Farmore in Cranberry, Pennsylvania. I was like, I'm gonna buy a movie. Am I gonna rewatch this? Yeah, I think I am gonna watch it over and over. And I've seen it a million times since. I know Chris gets a little bored when he's in the cabin by himself doing the one-man show. It doesn't get old for me, man. I love these. I love the score on this because it's so over the top and heroic. The score is in on the joke because it's like the score Ash thinks he deserves. So it all just works. It all works for me. Love them.
But I find Evil 2 a horror comedy work of genius. Not saying it's a great film, but I think as a horror comedy, it's amazing. I still like the first film the best out of the three for many reasons, but I even find the first film kind of funny too, right?
And that's exactly what I was going to say. Of exactly what Pete said, of the three, by far, my favorite is the original. And the original is not played for laughs at all. However, there are some parts that are just so ridiculous and so gory that you laugh at them. And they weren't made to be laughed at, but it's just the way it plays out. It's just even at the end, the horrific final fight with Ash, man, when you think it's all over and he gets that giant tomato-like ball of goo in the face, it's hysterically funny.
But the boomstick line, when I saw that in the theater in 1992, I would have never thought that 30 years later, that boomstick line would be on t-shirts today. I had no idea. I did not see that coming.
I mean, it's amazing because Army of Darkness was a flop. And I mean, it's crazy to think too, wait, this was a threequel. This was the end of a trilogy, and they completely marketed it like it was a standalone movie.
Yeah, they didn't want to say Evil Dead 3 because they thought it would fail. It failed anyways.
Yeah.
It was on the back of every comic book, though, I bought in 1992.
Yes.
And I did not know it was Evil Dead 3 until, I don't know, the second week that it was out on the back. And I said, wait a minute, this guy has a chainsaw. This has got to be Evil Dead.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, it was.
Cool. All right, Chris, what do you got?
All right, mine. I saw this in the theater. I mentioned it recently on one of the episodes we did, and I laughed hysterically. It's a remake, and it's in 3D. And I know I mentioned in the other episode, having seen so many movies and so many formats, I said to myself, I cannot believe I'm in a theater and I'm seeing in 3D two beautiful porn stars in a lesbian 69 underwater, and that was either right before or right after seeing a floating severed penis on the big silver screen. And of course I'm talking Piranha 3D, which is just so ridiculous but so much fun. Yeah, I've picked it up a couple times, and I just think it is a blast.
That is true.
And I think it's far funnier than the original that Joe Dante did in the 70s.
Yeah,
which
that
I think
had some funny
a great way to
moments.
go.
Yeah, but I think that totally
perfect.
to be serious. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that's it. To me, the original Piranha is a horror movie that's funny. Piranha 3D to me is a horror comedy. That's still super gory.
So the penis scene is kind of like the arm scene in Jaws 3D.
Yes, but a penis.
Yeah.
And I mean, not to be the old man in the room, but Pete, like you think back to, okay, I saw all these crappy movies in the 80s, like a whole bunch of the Friday the 13th that had zero blood because of the ratings board. And here I am, and there's a floating severed penis in 3D.
Just what you wanted to see, right?
Well, it's always good to have the option. But yeah, crazy.
Yeah, well, it's definitely a little different now, right? But the funny thing is, I think too many movie studios and directors play it safe nowadays, right? Because they don't want to go too far over the line, because they want to make sure the maximum amount of people
they want the PG-13. Yep. Yeah, you're right.
So I mean, I can appreciate when a rated R film is a rated R film.
Yeah.
Because back in the day, you saw something that was rated R, you were going to see some blood or some nudity or some, something that was going to take it over the top.
True.
And sometimes now you see these rated R films, they're like, all right, why was this rated R? Oh, because he said shit once. It's like, come on.
Shudder is doing some made for Shudder movies that are pretty brutal.
Oh yeah.
Yep. All right, my next choice. Again, this one, I mean, the whole premise of this film was meant to be funny. I don't see any, I mean, yeah, it's a horror film, but I don't see where Larry Cohen could have thought that this stuff would be anything other than a horror comedy. I mean, come on. It's like people eating this kind of yogurty, what's the fluff? Isn't that stuff called fluff?
Yeah,
right? I mean, basically what this is, like a mix between fluff and yogurt. And all of a sudden, it would kind of just totally wreck them from the inside, so to speak. And the stuff was going to take over the world. But this movie's a ton of fun, and there's plenty of laughs. And this to me is a successful horror comedy. But it's just so ridiculous. It's almost like kind of like a modern take, a more tasty take on the Blob, I guess you could kind of say, right?
Yeah, I always thought it was like the Blob if people ate it.
Yeah. If it looked good and it was vanilla flavored and all that kind of stuff.
And hey, listen, the Blob didn't look all that bad. It looked kind of like jelly. Yeah. I put it on toast. I totally would.
I haven't seen that movie since it came out.
But I was going to say, I was just talking to my buddy Sean, just got the stuffed Blu-ray and watched it. And I'm like, man, it's been so long. I need to see it again.
It came out like around, here's another one that I didn't even think of till now. Blades. Instead of Jaws.
Oh, the lawnmower one?
Yeah.
God, I remember seeing it on VHS, but I don't remember shit about it.
It's around the same year as the stuff, I think.
Yeah, because
this year after.
80s.
Yeah.
Yeah, what year was this? 86?
87? 88?
87? 88. Well, I will say, if you're interested in getting this, the Arrow is really good. The Arrow version is quite good. A lot of good extras too. A lot of good stuff. So.
And you might have to buy it again, because recently, right, somebody discovered a film print that had longer footage. It was a longer version of the stuff.
Never ends.
As was recently discovered for Gremlins and The Last Boy Scout.
Crazy.
Look at all my empty space. Every video I do, it'll be a little bit more.
Look at that. Jamie's ready to go.
The curse is real, folks.
It's
He's ready to buy both versions of the stuff.
All
right,
Who's next?
You're next, Jamie. What do you got?
Well, I'm going to go with one that's been talked to death on here, but I'm going to talk about it a little bit more. American Werewolf in London.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I think this might be the beginning of modern horror in a way. Because I remember when it came out, I was watching it going, how old was I? 12? I'm like, this is funny. And I think it's supposed to be funny. I mean, when they're in the porn theater, that's just pure comedy right there with the dead people showing up. Even the famous scene where he changes into the werewolf, which is maybe the best werewolf scene of all time. There's still some comedy in it because you got Sam Cooke singing in the background, this cheerful version of Blue Moon, wink, wink, Blue Moon. And I took a cinema course at Penn State. It's the only course I remember anything about.
Of course.
And I don't always remember the terms, but I'll sometimes remember there is a term for this, what's going on in a movie. So when there is something intense going on, like the changing into the werewolf, and there's like a lighthearted music in the background, I knew that was something kind of like Singing in the Rain in Clockwork Orange, or what is that in Reservoir Dogs when he's cutting off the ear? Stuck in the middle with you.
Yep.
Yeah. So I Googled it, and the term is soundtrack dissonance. So there you go. When they clash, the happy with the intense.
Yep.
So yeah, and this won an Academy Award, the first one ever for makeup, ever.
Well deserved.
So there you go. And it doesn't feel dated at all, man. No. I watched this and it feels like it could have been. It actually, when I watched it a couple nights ago, I was reminded how old it is when the Muppet Show was on a TV in the background. I'm like, oh yeah, this is old.
Yeah.
I think it's 81, right?
Yeah, 81.
Yeah. I mean, I watch this film at least once a year, and I have forever. And I think it's one of the few movies where I saw it in the theaters when it first came out in Goshen, New York. And I remember there were scenes that scared the shit out of me, and there were scenes that made me laugh uncontrollably.
And I read that the studio wanted Dan Aykroyd and Jim Belushi in it. Oh. Yeah, I know they were a little old for the part at the time.
That wouldn't have been good.
Yeah,
so,
that would have been flat out comedy.
Is this one that maybe kind of straddles that line? What do you think?
In my head, that's a horror movie. That's funny. It's not in my head. It's not a horror comedy. But I mean, listen, it's from John Landis, who did Animal House and the Blues Brothers. So he had huge comedy successes before he attempted horror. So there's no doubt he was trying to make a horror movie that had a ton of great comedy in it, and it absolutely works.
For me, every time his dead buddy shows up and still acts like his buddy, but he's all mangled, that's intentional funny. That's comedy. I'm sorry, for me.
But it works great as a horror film too. I think, and I think that's maybe one of the things too that we need to consider here. It's like, because I think if the film is still pretty scary in spots, it's definitely a horror film. Because I think some of the true horror comedies, they're not scary at all, and they're not meant to be. They're just like they're funny comedy films with gore and
like Shaun of the Dead. Right. Definitely, to me, Shaun of the Dead's great, but it's not scary at all. And absolutely, by that criteria, American Werewolf in London absolutely has some incredibly frightening scenes in it.
Yeah. And a sexy British nurse.
Just the Nazi zombie scene alone.
Oh yeah.
The Nazi werewolf zombie guys are coming in and killing the family. That's amazing.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And yeah, Jenny Agutter from Logan's Run is pretty hot.
Oh yeah. Jesus. All right, Chris, back to you.
All right, my one of mine. I have the Laserdisc. I don't think it ever came out on DVD, and it's been talked about on Blu-ray for like 20 years. Peter Jackson's Dead Alive, aka Brain Dead. Just probably could be the goriest horror movie ever. With a guy with a lawnmower just mowing down people, but man, it is so funny. The missus is not a huge zombie fan, but she loves that movie. I remember years ago dragging her to a midnight screening. Somebody had a 35 millimeter print of it, and man, she falls asleep through anything. But it was the first time she'd ever seen that, and she loved it. She's always like, "What's the one again where the ear falls in the soup or the porridge?" I'm like, "Dead Alive." She's like, "Oh yeah, that's my favorite one."
They should have
I can't
called that
believe
film
this wasn't
Blood.
on DVD.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Jamie.
I had it on VHS, but I can't believe it's not on DVD.
Yes, I was going to say it had a big release on VHS and a Laserdisc. I had the Japanese Laserdisc because there are 3 versions of the movie. There's the R-rated, there's the unrated, and then there's the director's cut. I don't remember the running times, but yeah, there was like 3 different versions. I had the Japanese Laserdisc, which was the longest one, but I don't think it ever came out on DVD. Did it?
I have it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But then it was the Blu-ray that everyone's been
It's
waiting
never
for.
released on Blu-ray. Either that, and his other film, Bad Taste, is another horror.
Yes, and also his the one in between, Meet the Feebles.
Yeah.
And he's been talking for 100 years that these are all going to be re-released on 4K and whatever, but who the hell knows?
The Frighteners, which you guys just saw.
Yes.
They're 24-hour.
Yeah.
Yep.
But the Frighteners is different because that one was through a major studio. He apparently has the rights to the first 3 that he did, and those 3 are supposed to be re-released, but he's literally been talking about it, I want to say like 10 years.
He's just got to put them out on like a combo set, the Peter Jackson original trilogy or whatever, and just do that already.
Right. From the creator of the Lord of the Rings film trilogy, and then it's a movie about puppets screwing each other and killing each other.
And the poster to Dead Alive is great. The poster.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know what you're getting into when you see that poster.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that stupid little zombie baby running around in his pajamas just cracks me up every time.
I need to see it.
It's very quotable with, your mother ate my dog, and just so many, lines in that movie are just classic.
Yeah, it's out of control. I haven't watched that in a long time, but it's a lot of fun. All right, I think this one qualifies. Motel Hell.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Right? I mean, the premise is so ridiculous that it can't be anything but a comedy. And again, this is not scary at all. But it's got, basically this is backwoods horror, right? You got like I always call the family the Clampets because that's basically what they are, right? And they've got this motel, and they sell the homemade sausage, and of course what they do is they kidnap all the people that come and stay in the motel, and they bury them out back, and they cultivate them to make this it's totally ridiculous. But I remember seeing this on late night cable TV back in the early 80s on Cinemax late at night, and just thinking that this movie was absolutely hysterical and so ghoulishly cool. And now all these years later, I'm like, it's not quite as extreme as I thought it was back then, right? But it's still a lot of fun.
I was gonna say, I remember seeing the TV spot in 1980, where they show the people in the dirt with the bags on their heads, and just as a 9-year-old thinking, wow, this looks so scary. But yeah, I think I saw it on cable in probably like 82, and I was kind of disappointed because I'm like, this isn't really scary or gory at all. Yeah. And it's kind of a comedy.
Yeah.
Doesn't that couple show up in at least one other movie?
The owners
together?
Of the motel?
I think so.
Well, it was.
I'm going from my old mind,
Rory Calhoun. I mean, he was like he was a big Western star. He was like a big deal, and I can't remember what I saw recently. Was he in? What's the one with the rabbits? Isn't he in?
Yes, he's in. He's definitely.
And he's got like dark hair, and it's only like 5 years earlier, but he looks like 20 years younger.
Yeah, Night of the Lepus. He's in Night of the Lepus.
Night of the Lepus.
I'm thinking of a different couple. Sorry.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
But this is fun. I mean, it's fun.
Oh yeah, that's a hoot.
Yeah,
that's a hoot. And it's really kind of like a funny version of Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. I think that's what they were going for.
Yeah,
a little bit of a twist, and and it works though, and for what it is.
It totally does. Yeah.
But the whole premise made you think it was going to be a little more extreme than it actually is. But
absolutely. But again, if you watch the trailers, yeah, they were selling this as a straight horror film.
Yeah. Oh yeah. All right, Jamie, back to you.
Well, I got the craziest premise here. It doesn't get crazier than this premise. You talk about this movie to someone, and there's no way they're not going to think it's a comedy. Bubba Hotep.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, for those who don't know anything about this movie, you got Bruce Campbell from the Evil Dead movies playing Elvis. And this Elvis here was tired of the fame. So he struck a deal with an Elvis impersonator to switch lives. So the Elvis impersonator became Elvis. Elvis became the impersonator and then got injured, went into a coma, ended up in an old age home. And this is 2002. So he's pretty old. And he befriends this black guy who claims to be JFK. And they colored his skin to hide him better. And where he got shot in his head, they just put a bag of sand in there and sewed it up, and he's good to go. And to make things even crazier, there's a mummy walking around the old age home, sucking the souls out of people through their asshole. And these two have to battle the mummy. And JFK's in a wheelchair, and Elvis is in a walker. And you haven't seen anything until you've seen Elvis battle this humongous Egyptian bug with a walker and a bedpan. It's hilarious. But you know what? This movie made me mad. I'm sorry. And I got a cat being bad. It made me mad when it first came out, because I thought, if Bruce Campbell can make a movie like this, why doesn't he just make another Evil Dead movie? So I would watch it kind of pissed. But you know what? Now that he's done Ash vs. Evil Dead, what was that, 2 or 3 seasons? I go back now, 3. Now I go back to this movie without the anger, because I know he did it. And I just watch it for the pure joy it is. And this is the DVD. I need a Blu-ray update definitely on this one.
Well, not to make you more mad, but there was supposed to be a Bubba Hotep 2, but like Don Coscarelli, who directed it, who did the Phantasm movies and the Beastmaster movies, wanted to do it, but for whatever reason, Bruce Campbell didn't want to do it.
And honestly, Davis died shortly afterwards. Who plays
right? Yeah, I didn't even think of that. But I mean, Bruce Campbell's what they really need to make the movie.
Right? Yeah.
If I remember correctly, that movie was kind of a bomb, right? I mean, that didn't.
Yes. Yeah. Another
it's
one.
Supposed to bomb. A movie like that's supposed to bomb.
Yeah.
Become a cult classic.
Yeah. I also was really disappointed with it when it first came out, because there's a lot of cool scenes in it, but it was just way too much comedy. I was like, oh, come on. It's like, can we do something semi-serious at least? But repeated viewings, it's not really all that bad at all. It's got some fun.
Yeah, I like it.
All right, Chris, back to you.
All right, mine. This is a newer one. I saw this in the theater. I don't have the disc with me, but it must have been like, I don't know. I'm going to say like 2014 or something. That's just a guess. I was literally the only person in the theater, and I laughed my ass off. And it's the Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse. This movie is a hoot and a half. And again, got crazy gore and hot girls and Boy Scouts fighting off zombies. This was a big budget release, and this thing died a horrible, miserable death. But I loved it. I couldn't believe I was the only one seeing it in the theater. I ran out and bought the Blu-ray as soon as it came out. And it's kind of like Piranha in that there's scenes where you're like, holy shit, I can't believe I'm seeing this. But it's incredibly funny and gory, and kind of has a bit of a love story as well. And if you haven't seen it, I would, you could probably pick up the Blu-ray for like $5. This is
I've never even heard of this before.
Oh, yeah.
It sounds familiar.
Yeah.
What year?
I want to say 2014.
Okay.
2015. Yeah. It's a couple years old.
Just a name is hard to forget. And I think I heard.
Yeah, it's so weird Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. It's two Boy Scouts who were friends, and a zombie outbreak, takes place, and there's a hot girl as a stripper that they run into, and hijinks ensue, and there's people in the town that they know that are now undead, and insanity happens. But it is a blast. I really enjoy it, so it's worth seeking out.
All right.
I'm gonna have to check that one out.
Yeah.
Why not, right? All right, my next one. I guess Full Moon Productions, kind of like half of the stuff that they release could be considered horror comedies, whether they intend them to be or not. And I think this one is absolutely hysterical, and this had to have been their intention. Demonic Toys.
Oh yeah.
This is like so much fun. I mean, Full Moon Productions is like notorious for like the tiny terrors, of course, with dolls and the Puppet Master films, and all sorts of other stuff. But I think this movie is a ton of fun. It's hilarious. It's got the ultra hot Tracy Scoggins in it as well. And basically these toys, you got like a toy robot, a baby doll, baby Oopsie Daisy. You've got the demonic clown, and then a demonic teddy bear. They get taken over by these demons, and they basically just run rampant and kill people, and I'm sure you can imagine the story from there. But this is, I mean, and the one-liners, I mean, the lines from Baby Oopsie Daisy alone are worth seeing, because it's just every time that little doll opens up its mouth to say something, it's absolutely hilarious, and the kills are funny. I don't know. I think this movie is an absolute riot. Whether that's what they intended or not, I don't know, but I'm assuming they did. But
Right.
yeah, so funny, so funny.
That's funny.
All right, Jamie, back to you.
I'm gonna go with one I thought you guys would have brought up by now. Killer Clown, wow, 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 wow.
Oh yeah,
From
absolutely.
outer space. I love that song. I don't know any other song by the Dickies, but I love that song. This, well, here it is for people who don't know. Aliens come from outer space. They just happen to look like clowns. Their ship just happens to look like a circus tent. When you shoot them in the nose, they just happen to turn into confetti. They have killer popcorn. They cocoon you up in something that just happens to look like cotton candy. I mean, the bits are endless in this movie. My favorite bit, I think, happens early when the clowns have to seek some kids in the woods, and they need a dog. So they make a dog out of balloons, like a balloon animal, and put it on the leash, and it finds the kids. But I think the clowns for the budget look really good.
They do,
especially for the year. They got moving eyes and mouth, and it's just not like it actually moves. So I remember being impressed when I saw it in 88 or 89, whenever I saw it. What I don't like about this so much is the comic relief duo. This movie's already funny as hell. We don't need those two. It's like putting icing on top of icing. It's a bit of overkill. But yeah, Killer Clowns from Outer Space. Even the name is funny.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I remember being so disappointed, because I wanted to see that in the theater as a kid in '88 so bad, and it never played theatrically in my area here in New York. So there was had to wait till it came out on VHS.
The best bit might be the shadow puppet.
Yeah, it is.
And the shadow puppet eats a group of people. That's probably the best one.
But that's another
impressively
movie.
done.
I was gonna say it's another movie kind of similar to Bubba Hotep, but way bigger than Bubba Hotep. That all these years later is a massive cult film. I mean, look at how much merchandise there is for Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
I saw a young girl at the grocery store this summer. She's an attractive girl, probably like 25, and she had a Killer Clowns from Outer Space t-shirt on. And I told her, nice shirt. And I said, will you run away with me? And she said, no. Get away from me, you perv. That didn't happen.
I mean, she wasn't even born when that film came out. I mean,
no.
Yeah.
No. Her parents were probably my age.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really fun film. I like it a lot. I remember renting it back in the day because like Chris, I didn't get to see it in the theater.
Yeah.
I don't even remember being in the theater, to be honest with you.
I don't remember it being anywhere near us, Pete, theatrically.
Yeah.
And the album
probably didn't.
That song is on an EP by the Dickies, and the cover has nothing to do with the movie. I should have Googled what was up with that, because it's on it it's like regular clowns on the cover, just like a song that has nothing to do with the movie. It's almost like the movie heard the song and then made, I don't know.
And that could be, yeah, who knows? But good stuff. Yeah, that's definitely.
And all these years later, they're still talking about a sequel. But I wouldn't hold your breath, though.
No, it's been over 30 years, right? I think. Yeah. But hey, if it happens, I'll go see it.
Oh, for sure.
All right, good choice, Chris. Back to you.
All right, I'm going to go with one that I saw theatrically in the in the movies in, I guess it was 1988, and this one did apparently get a limited theatrical run, but I did catch it here in New York. I thought it was very funny. I've seen it multiple times up until I have the Blu-ray that I watched maybe like a year ago, and then maybe about 3 or 4 months ago on Shudder. Elvira ran it as part of her Halloween 30th or 40th anniversary, and it was her movie, Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. And I think it is still very funny. It's filled with nothing but 90 minutes of boob jokes, but it totally works. You know, Elvira comes to a small town to inherit the mansion, and there's her uncle's a witch and wants the house because there's a book in it and blah, blah, blah. But there's just tons of boob jokes. I wish there was some actual nudity, but I still think it's very, very funny.
She's never shown those things, has she? Has she?
Oh, a ton of times.
Has she? Not as Elvira, though, but not
as Cassandra Peterson. She was naked as a jailbird many times. There's tons of stills of her fully naked. In fact, she's even in a movie called The Working Girls, which is on Blu-ray, where she gets topless.
But she never looks like Elvira when she's topless.
No, once she became Elvira, she did not do any nudity.
Isn't she like a redhead, like without the wig? Like what is her hair color? A redhead, right? Yeah,
she's a redhead.
Yeah, she's actually. I remember the bunch of times I've seen her without the the Elvira get up. She's very, very pretty.
Oh, I saw her, doing the press tour for her new book, and I mean, she's like 70 years old. She looks amazing. It's like unbelievable.
Yeah.
She has a good pinball machine.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
All right. My next one, this definitely can be considered here. Wolf Cop.
Oh, nice.
I'm laughing and I don't even know what it is. That was
on my list.
I need that movie.
You could probably get this for a couple bucks. I mean, this was not expensive.
Oh yeah, it's like a $5 Blu-ray on Amazon.
Yeah. This is just hilarious. Guy becomes a werewolf, becomes the sheriff. He talks, he drinks, this is just absolutely bonkers, crazy stuff. But the Wolfman costume, the makeup looked pretty damn good, and it's really all practical effects, if I remember correctly. I haven't seen this in a little while, but it's fun. Don't
2000
one, but the first one.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be like 2015 or 2012 or something, right, Pete? It's not that old. 2014. Okay, there is a sequel, but it's not nearly as good. Yeah.
This is a lot of fun. So this, unlike American Werewolf in London, this is intentionally supposed to be a comedy.
Yeah.
But it's pretty bloody in spots. I mean, this is good. Yeah.
Very gory. Yeah. Some great comedy. I mean, besides being a cop and a wolf, he's also a drunk.
Yeah.
So there's a lot
I gotta see this.
Yeah.
I'm buying it after this.
There's some really hot ladies in it. You see some good skin. Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, it's good.
Man, would Teen Wolf work for this conversation, or is that too comedy?
Yeah, I mean it's still a werewolf movie.
Yeah, I guess so.
And there's that other one that I always mix up. Was it Full Moon High, which was like Teen Wolf, but like 5 years before Teen Wolf? And you guys remember that one?
No, I don't remember that one.
I remember the Jim Carrey movie where he's a vampire once bitten.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's another one.
And then you got Vampire in Brooklyn. God, there's so many.
There's a lot.
Yes. Here's another one. I think Pete just watched this recently. Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
Yep. I was going to mention that one as well. Yep.
This is more comedy than it is horror.
Yes.
But I mean, the kills are fun. These are likable guys.
Yep.
The premise, for people who don't know, is these two hillbillies are going on a fishing trip, and they're nice guys. They're just like you and me. They like to drink beer and they like to shoot the shit. And there's some college kids around the same area, and they're on vacation, and they think these are like Deliverance style hillbillies. And it's basically one miscommunication after. If Three's Company was a horror movie, it would be this movie, pretty much. But you know what? They beat the premise into the ground, but it does not get old. It just doesn't get old. I think it's because the main characters are just so likable.
They are, yeah.
Now, I really don't like the fact that one of the teenagers kind of turns evil himself, but I think something had to happen to keep the story going, so whatever. But yeah, if nobody's out there has seen this, I mean, my wife does not watch horror movies. She was laughing her ass off at this. So Tucker and Dale versus Evil. And this is like, what, 2009, 2008?
Something
I can't believe
that,
it's that old already.
Yeah, very funny. And the premise is so good. And the way they do it. I mean, like at one point, the hot blonde hits her head. So the hillbillies, Tucker and Dale, like pull the injured girl into their boat to help her. And so they yell to their friends, "Hey, we've got your friend." Yeah. But the way they shoot it makes it look like they're going to hurt her and they're kidnapping her. But they're not. They're trying to help her. And that's, the entire movie plays out like that.
Yes. It's hilarious. It's got some great lines.
2010. It's 11 years old already.
Yeah.
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 And it was a flop, unfortunately.
Yeah. Fun, though. Yeah, it is fun.
Yeah.
I only just saw it for the first time recently. So.
Yeah, it's a fun one.
All right, Chris.
All right, this one is an unintentionally funny movie, but so funny that I've seen it, I don't know, at least 10 times now, and it still cracks me up every time I see it. It's so funny that when I saw it at the Exhumed Films 24-hour show, I had just lost my wallet with all my money and all my credit cards. And after calling all the credit card companies, I came back to the theater, and this was the first movie that played, and it was so good and so funny that I completely forgot about losing my wallet for the 90 minutes. And I'm talking about 1981's Raw Force, aka I think it's Kung Fu Zombies is the alternate title. And man, that movie is fucking hysterical. Shot in the Philippines. It's basically a knockoff of Enter the Dragon with a bunch of martial artists that wind up on this island in the Philippines. First they're on a cruise, they wind up crash landing on this island in the Philippines, and there's these evil monks, and then there's these zombies that also do kung fu, or there's cannibals. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous.
Chris let me this on Blu-ray, and I was laughing my ass off.
I mean, Pete, how funny is that movie?
And you saw it in the theater?
I mean, I saw it in the theater, but not 1981. I saw it in like 2005.
Okay.
But they did run an old 35 millimeter film print of it. But I had heard about it, but I'd never seen it before, because at the time it was one of those like, oh my God, you have to see this movie, but you'll never be able to find it because it barely was released on VHS. And at the time there was no DVD of it. And eventually over time, 35 millimeter screenings of it happened all over, and it started to get a reputation. And somebody's like, hey, let's put out a Blu-ray, which was the version that I let Pete borrow. But it's got boobs, it's got blood, it's got kung fu, it's got zombies, it's got it all. It's comedy. Yeah, it's nuts. It's totally nuts. And it's only like 80 something minutes, so there's like never a second for it to be dull.
Yeah, that was insane. I think you frame it's like, this is batshit crazy, but you'll have a blast with it. So I had an open mind, and I'm watching this. I'm like, holy crap, this is completely ridiculous, but I'm loving it. So yeah, good. All right, I'm going to go for the Captain Obvious pick here, but it's my favorite horror comedy of all time. It's probably the first ever. It's the granddaddy of all of them, and it's probably,
I knew this was coming.
It's the film I've watched the most in my entire life, and it's Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. I mean, what's better than having the funniest comedy duo of all time going head to head with the Universal monsters? And this movie is hilarious, but it's also tense and chilling. It's got some of the greatest lines ever. I love everything about it, and I watch it every year. I think I've watched it every year since I was old enough to start watching movies. And I think I probably started watching this movie when I was 3 or 4. So now that I'm 56 in a couple days, just that's how many times I've watched it. And I've watched it, there have been years where I watch it numerous times. So yeah, I just love it. It still makes me laugh. I know like every line in the entire film. I can recite the whole thing. It's just, to me, it is what a horror comedy should be.
Those are the movies that make you feel like a kid for 88 minutes as you're watching.
You're absolutely right.
Minutes.
Yeah. Right. People always say, don't you retire watching that? I'm like, nope. Nope, not at all.
It used to be on every Sunday.
Yeah.
Every Sunday afternoon.
Sundays, yeah. Well, it was like every Sunday on Channel 11 up here was like an Abbott and Costello movie. That's how I remember.
11:30 on Sundays.
Yeah.
And Planet of the Apes seemed to be on too, I remember, on
Godzilla
Sunday.
and King Kong and all that stuff. Yeah, you always caught them. It's around the holidays, certainly, but even during the rest of the year. Yeah. Mandatory stuff.
And I was going to say, I know I mentioned it last time we talked about Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. Like, to me, like, okay, so is this the first movie with an Easter egg at the end? With the Invisible Man? Like, holy crap. That's, talk about, way ahead of your time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, kind of like a lot of those Universal horror films and a lot of like sequels and series we've seen in more recent years, the inconsistencies between the films is just like mind-boggling. So here you have this great premise to bring all the monsters together, yet it totally shits and forgets everything that happened in all the films that came before, which is like, what? It's just, but yet we've seen that happen in the Halloween, Friday the 13th franchise and all that kind of stuff, where it's just like, well, why are we not getting like a, consistent story from film to film? But it's still a lot of fun anyway.
Let's do Terminator 5, but forget that Terminator 3 and 4 happened. And no doubt. It happens all the time.
Yeah, it's almost like we screwed up. Now we mean it this time.
Yep.
Anyway, all right, back to Jamie.
What's funny? You said the granddaddy of them all. That's exactly what I was going to say about my next pick. First of all, we like to talk about the deep cuts. Let's sell out a little bit and talk about a couple beloved ones that millions upon millions of people love. And to me, this is the granddaddy of them all. I mean, when I saw this in the theater in 1984, I came running home and told my mom, I just saw the best movie ever made. I was 14. Better than Raiders, better than Star Wars. I don't think that now, but it's still probably still in my top 30.
That's big.
At the time. I mean, I needed a t-shirt ASAP. I just thought it was hilarious. When I heard Bill Murray, some of my favorite movies have a smart ass in them. Evil Dead 2, From Dusk Till Dawn, Ghostbusters, Bill Murray. When he says that line, yes, it's true, this man has no dick. At 14, I thought it was the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life up to that point. It's still pretty funny. It still works. And here's one thing about this movie that, when the trailer came out on TV, the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man was never shown in the trailer. So when we went to the theater and they said the choice has been made, we sat there, oh my God, we were on the edge of our seat. What's it going to be? If this movie came out today, they would have showed him in the trailer. It. They would have ruined it. So that was special, man. That's a generation thing. To not know what that was coming. You had to be there in the theater for that kind of experience. The sequel, you know what? I don't think Ghostbusters 2 is that great. I don't think the Lady Ghostbusters is that great. I thought Afterlife, I had some high. And what it comes down to, I think they're just not funny. They forget to be really funny. This is funny as hell, and that's why it works. And its sister, another big one, Beetlejuice.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and people forget how little Michael Keaton is in this movie. He doesn't show up until I paused it the other night. It's literally halfway through, 45 minutes and some seconds in a 90-minute movie. He shows up for the first time and interacts with people. But and I remember when Batman was announced that he was going to be Batman. People don't know, but we were up in arms. We thought he could pull it off. And I remember me and my buddies going, "Have you seen Beetlejuice? Why isn't he the Joker? Why is he Batman?" But he ended up being my generation's movie Batman, you know? And I love him as Bruce Wayne. So, and I would say the Banana Boat song scene where they're dancing around the table. You know, there's scenes from the 80s and 80s movies that are just make you feel good. And you got Tom Hanks in Big dancing on the piano. You got John Cusack with the boombox up above his head and Say Anything. That scene ranks right up there with all of that. I think it just makes me feel all gooey inside. This is my I don't know, Jeffrey Jones, does his crimes ruin this movie for anyone? I mean, I can put it to the side. But here's my question. Now, this is a question for you guys. 4 years apart. This is kind of like, some people like the grain on 4K, some people don't. It's kind of like orange juice. Do you like the pulp or don't you like the pulp? This has no grain whatsoever. It's crystal clear. This, made in the 80s, has a lot of grain. What determines that? The camera they used? I don't know. But they're only 4 years apart, so you can't tell me one's older than the other one.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's a process called DNR, digital noise reduction, where they clean out some of the grain, but it's tough because 35 millimeter film is sharp, but it's inherently grainy. So there's I don't want to say there's a formula, because I don't think there is a formula, but there's a method for, you want to clean it up somewhat, but you don't want to scrub out the grain. Like I have, you know, multiple versions of Predator, and on one of the Blu-rays, you know, everybody looks plastic because everything has been stripped away, all the detail. So, I mean, I don't know, you know, the particulars of why Beetlejuice is grainier than Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters is grainier than
right. Yeah. But yeah, there is a process, DNR, and when it's applied, it does take away some of the graininess, but then it also at the same time takes away some of the sharpness.
Right.
All those technical things, right?
Yeah. But I'm not a huge Ghostbusters fan, so.
Oh, and I started getting a big crush on Winona Ryder in this movie when I was a teenager. And then when this came out, which is kind of it's a comedy.
Well, to me, that's a black comedy. Like
that's a black comedy, but there is some violent kills in it.
Oh, for sure.
But I fell in love with her in this movie.
Very hot.
When she says something like, "If you're nice, I'll let you buy me a slushie." Can I buy you a fucking slushie, please?
I was watching Bram Stoker's Dracula on 4K not long ago, and she looks dynamite in that film.
Oh,
how's that 4K look?
Yeah, looks good. Yeah, well worth it.
Yeah, Keanu Reeves is the only bad part in that movie.
What's that?
Keanu Reeves is
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I offended you.
Get him out of that. It's a really good film. Yeah, I know.
For sure. All right, my next pick is from a guy that's directed a bunch of horror movies, and I think they're all horror comedies. Maybe his first one, sort of Basket Case. Maybe it's not a straight horror comedy. Maybe it's just a funny horror movie. But I'm not going with Basket Case. I'm going with my favorite of his bunch, which is Frankenhooker. Any movie where a guy is going around and murdering hookers and stitching them up to make like a Frankenstein version, and you know the most famous scene in the movie is when a bunch of hookers are sitting around smoking super crack and they all explode. I mean, it could be one of the funniest scenes in cinema history. So it's a blast. And met, they did a Frankenhooker reunion, and we met. Me and my buddy Sean met Frank Henenlotter. We met Patty Mullins, who was the Penthouse Pet of the Year, and they all signed our posters and stuff. And man, I love this movie. We had a chance to run it off 35 millimeter at Hudson Horror, and it still holds up. When those hookers smoked that super crack, I mean, the audience was howling. So yeah, if you haven't seen it, make sure to I think it came out in 88 or 89.
Right at the end of the decade, yeah.
Yeah, right at the end of the decade.
Does that have sequels?
No, I don't believe so.
Yeah.
They did three basket case movies.
Should have stayed with the one.
Which, yeah, I remember I was just telling a friend, I was like, yep, saw Basket Case 2 in the theater, hated it. Went back a year or two later, saw Basket Case 3 in the theater, still hated it. It's just probably more so. But yeah, that's I think we did an episode on horror movies that had bad sequels.
Yeah.
But yeah, no sequels to Frankenhooker that I know of.
Basket Case is great. Yeah, I would agree. Basket Case is not a horror comedy. I think that movie's just so weird that it becomes kind of funny,
comical. Yeah,
it's so absurd, but yeah. All right, kind of like Jamie, I'm going to pick one from the 80s. I believe this was late 80s. 87. That became kind of like a pop favorite, amongst especially amongst younger folks, younger people and teenagers. Lost Boys.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Is that a comedy?
Yeah, there's plenty of funny stuff in here. I mean, when you got the Coreys in the film, it's got to be partly comedy. But it's a good I would kind of equate this to like the whole Twilight series of more recent times, right? This was kind of it back then, but they did it all in one film, and it's a really good cast, and it's just teenage vampires, can't go wrong there. So I think it's going to be lighthearted anyway, but it's just an all-around fun, good story with a great cast, and so it's got Jamie Gertz in it.
Yeah, decent soundtrack. It's got some good songs on
it. Yeah, absolutely.
It's got that muscle guy playing the fucking saxophone, whatever song that is. I don't remember.
Yes.
Is it Sweet Little Sister or something like that?
Whatever.
That's
one of the songs. Yeah.
The oiled up muscle guy. He does.
What's the name of that song? Oh God, people are screaming at us right now.
I know.
Because it's pretty famous. I forget.
I thought
it's been a long time since I've seen
Little
it.
Sister or something like that.
That's a different song.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then there's Lou Graham, Lost in the Shadows. I don't know. I forget. Anyway, back to Jamie.
All right. I talked about these two on our vampire show, so I'm going to do them at the same time here and get them done. What We Do in the Shadows, which is now a TV series. Yep. And here's the thing, the TV series is 10 times funnier than the movie. When I first saw the movie, I was laughing. TV series is even funnier. Have you guys seen, I know Pete hasn't, have you seen this?
I have not seen the show, but I wanted to because I saw the movie a few years ago and I thought it was very funny.
Oh, the show is 10 times funnier. Well, not 10 times funnier, but it's pretty funny. This is what you need to like. You need to like the comedy of The Office a little bit. Think of The Office, but with vampires. And this guy who made this movie, I want to say his name right, Taika Waititi. He's a big name now. He's doing Thor: Love and Thunder. He did Ragnarok. He was just in Free Guy as the villain. So this put him on the map, man. And it's pretty, I mean, the best scene in this movie is pretty early on where Taika is a vampire and he's got a girl over. And it's funny when all the vampires are roommates and they yell at one another for not cleaning up their mess after they kill someone. And the dishes in the sink are piling up and they got blood all over the dishes because I guess they were eating people in the dishes. And well, he's about to kill her and she doesn't know it. And she thinks she's on a normal date. And she's talking about all the things she's going to do with her life. I plan to travel. I'm going to go to school. And he's like, yeah, okay. And he's like putting his napkin on and go, feeling bad for her a little bit because she doesn't know she's about to die and she has these plans. but they pull all that kind of dry comedy off in this movie. And like I said, my wife doesn't like horror movies or anything. We watched all 3 seasons so far of the show, and we sit there. We get engrossed with the characters too, because it's kind of like a continuing story as it goes on, the show. So yeah, What We Do in the Shadows, and you know what? This a comedy? Again, I brought it up in our vampire show. There are scenes in this movie that are comedic. You got Cheech doing his speech outside of From Dusk Till Dawn. You got a horse pussy, chicken pussy. That's funny. You got what's his name? The makeup guy who plays Sex Machine.
Yep.
Yeah, and he's got a gun in his crotch that pops out, and it looks like a dick and balls. I mean, there are funny things on here. Juliette Lewis, she feels bad about putting the spike through the guy because he kind of looks handsome, and then he turns into one and she starts stabbing him. There are funny things on here, but you know what? You go on IMDb, it says crime, action, horror. Doesn't say comedy. So I was asking people before we do this, you think I should include this? Nah, I did.
I think it's a horror comedy without a doubt. It's movie's funny as shit.
Yes, it's hilarious. And top 5 movie of all time. Love it. It was made for me. It's like Robert Rodriguez asked me, Jamie, what do you want me to put in this movie? And I gave him a list, and he checked it off and put it all in there, right down to Selma Hayek dancing with a snake. I said naked. He says, we can't get her naked. What if I get her almost naked? I said, that's fine.
There you go.
Nice.
Vampires, blood, guts, shooting, and Selma Hayek.
And a smart ass main character. Love it.
Cool. Yeah, that was in my stack here as well. So, all right, Chris.
All right.
I got a newer one. God, I think it's probably, I don't know, 2014 or 2015, and it's really different. It's batshit crazy, and I had heard about it, and then when I saw it, I was like, wow, it's even weirder than I thought. And it's a movie about a killer tire. It's called Rubber.
Yes.
What's it called?
It's crazy.
Rubber. Yeah. It's about a tire that rolls around, and I recently rewatched it, and in the head, like I remember him, like I thought he killed people. Like I remember people exploding and animals exploding, and in my head, I was like, oh yeah, the tire runs over people. But then when I rewatched it, I'm like, oh no, the tire actually has telekinetic powers. So he's like a scanner, and the tire just shakes and sends his telekinetic waves to make somebody's head violently explode. It is fucking crazy. And there's,
correct me if I'm wrong. It's been a long time, but doesn't it turn out to be a movie within a movie?
Yeah, there is something
like that.
Some of that.
Okay.
Yeah, because in the middle of the movie, there's a cop that's like, listen, this isn't real, and I don't want to give everything away, but it's nuts. It's totally nuts. The movie starts out with a guy doing an introduction, and he's like, well, how come in Texas Chainsaw Massacre you never see anybody wash their hands or go to the bathroom? He's like, no reason. He's like, how come in Love Story the main two people fall in love? He's like, no reason. So it's to be the emphasis of, oh, okay, let's make a killer tire movie. How come? No reason.
No reason.
Why not, right?
Yeah.
So,
just when you thought they made a film on just about every possible.
Oh yeah, no, Rubber is, like I said, in my head, I'm like, oh yeah, the tire rolls over people. Nope, he's got telekinetic powers, and
I forget how I saw that movie. I don't think Netflix was around it. I don't know. I can't remember.
It's a wild one, Pete. Rubber.
I'm fascinated by that.
And I have one more.
Good.
One more that's a brand new one along those same lines. And this one, Jamie mentioned Shudder, which I like. I know I've said it before because I watch movies on Shudder that I would have normally had to buy, but then I watch them on Shudder and I don't like them. But I'm like, oh, well, I'm glad I didn't buy them, because it's cheaper to keep Shudder every month than to buy all these movies I never watched before. But the movie that's very similar to Rubber is a movie about a pair of killer blue jeans called Slacks. And it's very funny and very gory. And it's a pair of possessed jeans that gets locked in a store like it's like a Gap, and they're doing inventory because it's going to be Black Friday, and the manager's coming, and the killer jeans start to kill everybody in the store. And it'd be like, oh, where's Jamie? Oh, Jamie's in the back doing inventory. But the jeans will wrap itself around Jamie's head till his head explodes. It's like a slasher movie, but with a pair of jeans.
Wow,
it's totally ridiculous, but somehow it works.
You know what I just thought of? Teeth.
There you go, the killer vagina.
Have you seen that, Pete?
No.
Chick's got teeth in her vagina.
That's a wild one.
Oh man!
But you're safe unless you go near it.
Right.
The pair of jeans can just hide anywhere. So
yeah, the teeth's not like Alien; it doesn't snap out. You got to go in.
Oh, okay. All right, here's a fairly recent one, 2017, I believe this came out. So this is a fourth film in the series, and the first three have little comedic elements, mostly from the cast, but they're serious slasher films, really, really gruesome and gory. But this fourth entrant into the franchise, to me, is just, it's funny from start to finish. And then they throw the main character in just for the kills and all that kind of stuff. I'm talking about Victor Crowley. Which basically almost the entire film takes place in and around the crashed airplane, little tiny airplane that the cast was in. And then of course Victor Crowley's back from the dead yet again, because they kill him off at the end of every film, and then he always comes back. And just everybody in the film is kind of like put there for comedic elements. And it's just, can they survive with Victor Crowley roaming around in the swamps outside of the plane? And it's just, the kills are even funny, even though they're gruesome and gory. But every line in the film, it's to the point in this movie where you wind up disliking the cast so much that you can't wait for Victor Crowley to go and kill them. It's like, please kill them and do it in the worst possible way you can. And then when they get killed, you just laugh and you cheer that he killed another one of them, because they're just you hate them. So again, maybe not intentionally done as a horror comedy, but I think it works just fine as a horror comedy, actually.
Well, I was going to say all those Hatchet movies are very funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're totally right. That fourth one, you want, unlike in the other ones where you're like, I want Daniel Harris to make it. Like in that one, you're like, oh, please fucking murder everybody.
Oh, they're all so unlikable. It's just ridiculous.
Is that the last one? Are there four?
Yeah.
That's the most recent one. Yeah.
Yeah. In fact,
I don't know if
there's no, I don't think they're going to make another one, because there's an interview with Adam Green, the director, on his documentary and the special features of this. And he talks about how they basically had put the series to rest with the third film. That was going to be it, because I think the third one was like 3 or 4 years before this one came out. And then he went through a really bad time. I think he got a divorce or something, and he just had a really bad time in his life. And someone suggested to him, it's like, you know what, to help get you kind of out of the doldrums that you're in, why don't we go make another Hatchet movie just to kind of finish the series off? And he agreed to do it, and they had a blast doing it. But that was already now going to be going on 5 years ago, and I think that's probably the end of it.
Right.
Yeah, but those, I mean, it's fun. It's clearly the worst of the four, but it's still a fun movie. But it's hilarious. It's just hilarious. And the kills are more brutal than ever. But again, you want to see the kills, because you wind up hating this cast of characters so much. It's just like, just bring Victor Crowley back from the dead and just have him murder them all in the worst possible way, so we can get out of this movie already. So
I remember watching it, being like, they're in the fucking plane for like an hour. Like, get out of the plane already. Just fucking open the door and go.
And then they start to do that one by one. Of course, Victor Crowley, not one by one, but yeah, I don't know. For me, I think the Hatchet films are so much fun, and they have some of the best kills of any modern horror films ever. I mean, it's just
absolutely.
movies didn't do better than they did, because I mean,
Yeah.
you talked before about how, like, in the 80s you had all these Friday the 13th and Halloween films, one after another, that had basically no blood and guts in them at all, or very little.
Right.
Look at these hatchet movies.
Oh,
Jesus, it's
unbelievable.
like, yeah.
I've only seen the first one.
The second and third one, they're really good too. The first
2
one
and 3 are really good. Yeah.
they're all good. They're all really good.
And that's when they bring in Danielle Harris.
Yeah. Who's a complete badass, right?
Yeah.
Cool. All right, Jamie, back to you if you got any left.
Well, I got one more, and then I got some honorable mentions. I don't think this is a horror movie, but it's the most horrific movie I've ever seen. It's the most disturbing movie maybe ever made, probably ever made. And there's no blood, no guts, anything in it. I watched this movie when it first came out, and I laughed my ass off. I knew it's as dark as a comedy gets, and I let my wife watch it. It's called Happiness. Now, this is made by the guy who did Welcome to the Dollhouse. That was probably his most famous movie before this. I can't even tell you what this is about because it's too disturbing. The conversations will make you laugh and squirm, especially this character actor. What's his name? Dylan Baker. I think he's in Trick or Treat. You've seen him around. He plays a father, and the conversations he has with his son will make you want to leave the room, but you won't leave the room. You'll stay there and squirm. I told my wife in 2004 when we were dating, his early 2000s, I said, you got to watch this movie because I bought it too. And this is out of print, and this is the only way to get it. And it's so old that I put it in today just to put it in while I got set up. It's got a black frame around the whole movie because it's not meant for modern TV.
Right. It's not widescreen enhanced.
But Criterion should be all over this, you know? And there's a sequel out there called Life During Wartime. It came out maybe 8 years ago. Same characters, different actors. It's not that good. But you got Philip Seymour Hoffman in this. The acting is so good. That's what makes it so disturbing, because you think it's really happening. But when I made my wife watch it, when it was over, she told me, whoever made this movie is fucked up, and you're fucked up for liking it. I thought she was going to leave me. Let me just tell you how it starts. I think I can say that. You got, what's his name? Dylan Baker. He's on my TV frozen right now. In the most disturbing scene, I had it playing, and the most disturbing scene came up. I said, let me pause that for inspiration. He's a psychologist, and he has Philip Seymour Hoffman talking to him, who's nuts, crazy. He calls strange girls while he's pleasuring himself, and all they got to do is say hello, and he squirts, and you see it hit the wall.
All right.
More than once. So he's talking to the psychologist, and the psychologist is like, you hear his mind. I got to go to the 7-Eleven. I got to pick up eggs. So he's not even listening. He leaves and he goes to the 7-Eleven, and he's there, and he picks, you don't know if he's crazy or not. You don't know anything about this movie going in. That's the best part. And he picks up a teen mag, for his daughter, and it's got the 14-year-old boys on the cover. It's daylight. Comes out of 7-Eleven, goes right into the back seat of his car, and starts pleasuring himself to the cover of the magazine in the back seat during the day. And you see cars driving by, and as he's hitting his yay time, a mother comes into the car next door. You see through the window with 2 small kids. She's like, get in, let your brother in first. And he's just in pure ecstasy in the back seat of his car with this magazine. And you can imagine the things he wants to do he has a small son who's about 12, his friends, what he wants to do to his friends. He has sleepovers, and he's putting pills in their peanut butter and jelly sandwiches at night so he can do what he wants. And his son confronts him about it and says, God, I'm saying more than I should because I look like I'm disturbed now. He says, have you ever fucked my friends? He goes, this is the scene on right now. And they're on a couch together. He goes, yes, because the cops are on to him now and know he's a pedophile. He goes, have you ever, and he stutters the word, have you ever fucked me? He goes, no, I would never do that, son. I just sit by your bed and jerk off.
Oh God. All right.
This movie will make you squirm and laugh. It's supposed to be a dark comedy too, because it's something to see. When Criterion, I know they're going to get their hands on that someday. Buy it. It's $35 for the bad DVD on eBay, but yeah, it's something.
Yeah, that sounds.
It sounds like something, all right.
I'm not quite sure what, but
yeah.
And every character is crazy in this movie, and they're all doing their crazy things.
When Jamie goes, yeah, I laugh at the most controversial movie of all time. I'm thinking, you laugh and I spit on your grave? You're a sick fuck. But all right, you're still a sick fuck, it sounds like. So
it's hilarious. I almost lost my wife over it, but hey, what up? Okay, next. I feel like I crossed the line on the Monsters Den. I shouldn't have said too much. It's disturbing. That's all I should have said.
Yeah, right. Now we know the full extent of the disturbance.
Yeah, man. Show us on the doll where Jamie touched you. Oof.
It's good. The guy is an acclaimed director. I forget his name, Schultz or something. He's done all kinds of good movies.
Yeah, I never heard of that one. Never heard of that. Probably a reason why I'm probably trying to bury that.
I was just thinking that, Pete. There could be a reason why.
Number one film of the year, Newsweek magazine.
Wow. Okay.
All
right. Did I do some damage control there?
How do you follow that one up, Chris? Well, go.
Ooh, that's a tough one. I only got one left, and I don't know if it could top that. But this was a pretty funny zombie movie, which I think is a horror comedy. And it was a fun experience because I was in L.A. with the missus, and we went to the famous Chinese theater to see it. And you see all the handprints and stuff in front of the theater. And then we I wanted to see a movie, and this movie just happened to be playing when we were out there. So it was the movie Zombieland. And so we was during the day. We went into this giant cavernous empty theater and watched Zombieland. But the funny part was like 20 minutes into the movie, the characters in the movie go to the Chinese theater. And they're like outside looking at the handprints. And we're like looking at each other going, that's hysterical because we just outside 5 minutes ago doing the same thing. But it's pretty funny. I think the sequel's pretty weak, actually. But the original, I think, is much better. And
I never even saw the sequel. I you keep getting to it and just never did.
It's a big letdown from the first one. And I know there was a pilot that Amazon did for a TV series, and it was so weird because they put it out there, and it was only online for like a few days, and then they pulled it because it got such a negative reaction. And I have always wanted to see it, no matter how bad it is. I've wanted to see it, but I've still never seen it. But yeah, Zombieland 2 is pretty bad. But the first Zombieland, I think's a hoot. But yeah, that's the last of my list.
Yeah, I liked that when it first came out. On repeated viewings, I liked it less for whatever reason. I don't know.
I remember being a little let down. I was like, oh, this is going to be like one of those smart ass movies that I love. And it kind of was, but
it's moments. Yeah.
It's all right. Solid 3 stars, but that's about it.
I wanted to, I met Woody Harrelson a couple times this summer.
Right. Yeah.
And I wanted to ask him about that film and a couple others, but he was feeling
on the Monsters Den.
What's that?
Get him on the Monsters Den.
Yeah,
we'll all get high.
Nice guy though, but yeah, he's a man of very few words when you meet him in person, and he was having himself a good old time. So I was like, all right, I'm not going to get much conversation out of him on either time, but that's all right. All right, I have a couple honorable mentions too. I just didn't know which one to talk about last, but I'm going to throw this one out. Cabin in the Woods. Again, I think is part comedy, part intelligent horror, part homage to old monster movies of the past. I think I think they wanted this to be somewhat of a very intelligent kind of comedy with horrific elements to it. But I think really well done. I like this movie a lot. I think it's a lot. Can you see that? Can you see that on camera? Look at that.
I want to see that again. Oh yeah. Nice.
Yeah, pretty cool. Yeah, this is a good one, and I know this got pretty good reviews, but it didn't do great at the theaters.
Yeah, unfortunately, it was another bomb.
Yeah, which is a shame, but yeah, that's also on my list.
Yeah,
I want to throw a couple others out here real quick. Toxic Avenger.
Oh yeah, that's a hoot.
I mean, again, I don't even know whether you call that horror. It's more kind of.
And it's being remade now with the guy from Game of Thrones.
Oh really?
The what's his name? The midget.
Oh, Peter, what's his face?
Peter Dinkel. Little Dinkle.
He's gonna play Toxie?
Forget his name.
That's the craziest rumor that I heard, but that's what I heard.
All right. Yeah, this movie is just outlandishly bizarre, funny, and just.
That's another one. As a kid, I wanted to see that so bad in the theater, and it didn't play anywhere in my area.
This was a lot of these trauma films were like notorious VHS rental films. I mean, it's like when I was going to college, man, we rented these things all the time.
I saw the director recently in an interview, and he came off like a dick.
Lloyd Kaufman?
Yeah, like he thought his shit didn't stink, and I don't know.
Well, he can be a bit what's the term? Smarmy at times.
Okay.
Tremors.
Oh yeah.
Okay. That's pretty funny too. It's just a good kind of like monster adventure comedy type of thing, right? It's a good one. Had to throw this one out there. Critters. That's a horror comedy.
Everybody says Critters 2 is the good one, but I don't know. I'm not sure what I've seen of Critters, but I guess I got to see it again.
What about Gremlins 2, the new batch?
I saw that in the theater and I hated it.
I don't even remember. I
think it's more of a comedy than the first one.
Yeah. I mean, the first one definitely, it's on my list as well. I got Gremlins here too. As far as Critters, Chris, the first three are actually a lot of fun. Fourth one is terrible.
All right, so I'll stay
the outer space one.
yeah, that's no good at all. No good at all. But the first three are good. I enjoy them. They're a lot of fun. Troll and Troll 2. Troll 2 is awful. God.
Best worst movie.
I mean, they're not even trolls.
Yeah.
Like it's like I don't know what they were thinking with tagging that movie with the title Troll 2. It's got absolutely nothing to do with the first film, and it doesn't even have trolls in it. The creatures that are in it, I don't know what they are. They're not trolls.
Right. But that Troll 2 is definitely like unintentionally funny.
Oh yeah. It's like they were trying to make a serious movie, and it's just so bad.
Oh, that's so
ridiculous. Whereas the first film is part comedy anyway. I think there's a charm to the first film. I kind of dig. What else have I got? Ghoulies and Ghoulies 2, specifically Ghoulies 2, I think is hilarious.
Oh
yeah. And then that's all I got, because the last one I had here was the Evil Dead films. So yeah,
nice.
That's it. So there you go, everybody. I know there's a lot more of these that we didn't even touch upon.
Can I name three more real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Arachnophobia.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
I never saw that one.
Cemetery Man, which is Australian, might be Australian, based on a comic book. Came out in 95, maybe.
That's but Cemetery Man, that's Della Morte Dell'Amore. That's Italian.
Oh, Italian, okay.
Yeah.
And Old School, Comedy of Terrors with Peter Lorre and Vincent Price.
Oh yeah, going back. Yeah, Comedy of Terrors. That's right. Yeah. Forgot about that one. Yeah, there's actually a few more older ones that probably could have pulled out too. But yeah, there's so many. So cool. Let me make sure there's none on my written list here that I did not. No, I think we got them all. Oh, the Monster Squad. That's kind of like a comedy, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
What's that one where it's the phone number with Ed Begley Jr.?
Not 976 Evil. That is unintentionally funny.
Oh, okay.
You're talking Transylvania 5000.
I never seen it. I just thought it was always supposed to be a comedy.
Yeah, that's a hard. Gina Davis does her hot, sexy vampire thing in that.
Okay.
It's a pretty terrible movie. Other than that, than that scene.
Yeah, the unintentionally funny ones. Those are always. It's like I tried to make a serious movie, but all the audiences laugh at it. It's like, oh, it happens. It happens. So there you have it, everybody. If there's other favorites that you have that we haven't mentioned tonight, please put them in the comments below. And I want to thank everybody for watching and seeing us. It's the 30th. Tomorrow's the 31st. And we want to wish everybody a happy and healthy New Year's. And we'll see you back here on the Monsters Den in 2022. 1 week from tonight. So thanks for watching. Visit us on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, of course, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. For Chris Allo and Jamie Laszlo, I am Pete Pardo. Good night from the Monsters Den. See you in a week. Happy New Year, everybody.